Hello, everyone. Welcome to Disaster News. I'm your host, Papa Disaster. Let's get into it. So we had those CMEs that went off earlier this week. There was a big one, long duration on Saturday, at the end of the week. I apologize. We've had a few pop off here the past couple days on the M class, which is keeping our solar wind stream a little agitated. The stream speed has dropped down. KP is up a little bit. It's at a 4 right now. But we want to keep an eye on that with the CMEs passing by. Other than that, it looks okay. Everything on there looks okay for what we do with making that connection between the solar activity, the sunspot activity, coronal hole spot activity, and how that affects humans' mentality, their behavior, and with that, the epilepsy, how it affects people with epilepsy, which that's what I have noticed over this year and have been diligently digging in to try to make that connection before this sunspot maximum reaches the solar cycle reaches a sunspot maximum where my concerns are at. Noticed some things over the past couple days. The hard thing to do is to separate your work. When you have epilepsy, it's hard to separate that work schedule. I'm not saying that quite right. To be able to know that your frustrations or that your time at work, the preoccupation that you have at work when you stay busy, versus being able to notice any effects that may be happening. And that's something to just work through. It's interesting to be able to make those connections and see these things, and then possibly be able to find ways, like with the Spiro hats, to protect yourself, just like with Hawaiian Tropics sunscreen. I mean, it's no different. It's really no different. Jumping into something else. So last night, Drew and I were watching a video, and I had her watch it because an important part of, if you have epilepsy, is to keep that blood. If you don't have epilepsy, any human, is to keep water in your system. 2.5 liters a day is what you should be drinking. But again, we're not all the same. 5 milligrams for you is not 5 milligrams for me. One shot for you is not the same as one shot for someone else. It all breaks down in that, and relative to that. And getting into this water, there's Drew and I watched the video last night, and we get to jump right in. And water is so important. I mean, I know that I emphasize the water, intake of water. It's just like the oil in your system. You know, you're putting I'm not going to make a correct analogy, but it's your entire substance, and making this connection between this water research of Masaru Emoto, and apologies if it's not said correctly, but Masaru Emoto, he's a water researcher in Japan. When I'd first seen things about this guy, he was freezing water after having music play with it. You know, he would have a glass of water and he would play rock music. He would have a glass of water and he would talk kindly to it, or he did multiple experiments. I'm going to put his name here and links below to the video that I'm talking about, and that's with the fifth element. If you drink water, you should watch this. And with remembering to drink enough water through the day is hard enough. And it really is. We're just we're consumers of pop and Kool-Aid, and water is never really touted as that. You know it, but you don't drink it as often as you should. And then where you get your water from. This video talks about water. Anything that water touches, it has a memory of it. And it was an experiment that they did not do. It was a poison that they had in a vacuum sealed vial that fell into a beaker of water. Well, the vial was sealed, but they took that vial out, and then someone had used that water to water some mice, to give to mice or rats, and then the rats died subsequently. Well, the water was pure. They went and studied the water, broke it all down and tried to figure out what was going on. The water was as pure as it could be, but it picked up the characteristics of the poison and then killed the rats. So they started looking at things more. This guy, he's put things under, he takes the water and then puts it under a certain environment, whatever that be, music or words, or even taping a kind word to the glass, and then watching the crystals form. And the crystals on the nicer, the better, I don't want to say better music, the calmer music, the nicer words, the kinder intent that was put towards that water at the time that the water was there. And the crystals formed beautifully. The Fibonacci scale, just beautiful forms, ice crystals. Any of them that were not, say they took this glass of water, they put it by a microwave and kicked on the microwave to heat some food up. The crystals were horrible. The water reacts constantly to the environment around it. And that's a crazy thing. So our bodies are made up to 70 to 90% of water, depending on our age and weight and height, of course. With that, every day that you listen to hardcore music, every day that you sit in front of a dummy box and let that thing pump your head full of whatever's on there, it's changing the water crystalline structure of your water. I don't want to say it's changing it, but it is definitely, if it's able to do this to water in a controlled environment, and you're out here in the wild and all of these things are influencing you, it makes sense that if you're listening to negative, constant battering of negative energy, whatever form, remember a tape on a kind word on a glass, spoken words, or just the music you hear, if it does that to the glass of water and the crystalline structure of it when it freezes, then what does it do to your body every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year? It does the same thing. You can't assume that it does the same thing, but you can kind of think that it would be doing the same thing, since we are that substance, water. The KP is shooting up a little bit. You want to keep an eye on how you're feeling today. Make sure you drink plenty of water. If you don't have water in your system, then none of your body's working right. One's trying to steal from the other to keep things functioning that you don't even think about that are functioning every single day. Kind of like the water inside your body and what influences that you're putting into yourself that are maybe changing the structure. If you have bad water, which is city water, it's cycled and then pumped back into you. And this video goes over the water in your area, kind of like a place in Venezuela that's these tops of these areas where they say the earth fell away, and I think it might be a spot that was created by a plasma, but I gotta go check that out and do a little bit more on that. But the point being, this place has water that is not touched by humans. So they did a little experiment. A guy went there with the cameras that pick up the auras around things, the electrical aura around a leaf, this cup, you and I. No different than an MRI machine, so don't think it's a bunch of hooey. So this team goes up to this place in Venezuela, they get some of the water. They do the spectrogram over the water, a droplet of water, and it's just fire. 40,000 times the potency of that water versus any other water they've tested. And the other thing was, the crew that was there doing the filming, they were drinking the water, but he had done a control picture of the crew, each one of them individually, and got the outline of their aura around their body. It was real jagged, kind of like there on the space weather, kind of like on that space weather, those jagged lines real quick. That's what the outline of the aura around these guys looked like. Well, after they were there and they got done, they took another picture. They'd been drinking this water all week, or however long. They've been drinking that water. And now that they've been drinking that water, their auras are nice and round and full. This is a real thing to keep considering. Your bottled water that you drink, where's it from? The food that you're eating, where's it from? What kind of water was in that? You can kind of go on a huge run of how much influence does every single thing from the time that it's made to the time that you ingest it affected by what type of water? Was that happy water or not happy water? It's a weird question to present, but it's also an interesting answer once you dig in and start to find a few more things. Most important thing was that the type of water that had been untouched by humans regenerated the humans that were there to explore it. Kind of sounds like that one fellow that was out there looking for a fountain of youth. It's interesting how myths and history all start to come together when we just take the time to look. Speaking of which, if you liked and learned anything, subscribe. If you subscribe, we'll see you tomorrow. And hopefully I'll find something else new to talk about. And finally, check out Aaron Brooks. The song's called Consume. I've enjoyed it for some time. Way back in the day, one of the first songs that I really caught me was Someone Shoot the Effin' TV. And I loved it. Loved it. Been following him ever since. And with that, man, just check out the music. Go check out the water stuff. Links are below. You'd be surprised at what you find out. Safe travels, everybody. Peace.